You know those things that people sometimes call lazy? What if they're not flaws at all? What if they're actually signs of a brilliant mind hard at work? Well, today we're going to challenge some of those big assumptions we all make, maybe even about ourselves.
Just think about it for a second. Has anyone ever given you a look because of your messy desk? Or maybe you're the quiet one in the room, the one who listens more than they talk, and people just assume you're not paying attention. Yeah, those labels get thrown around a lot.
And that's really the problem, isn't it? Our society loves to put things in neat little boxes, and things like being messy or being quiet, they almost always get shoved into the weakness box. They're seen as problems you need to fix, signs that you're disorganized or that you lack confidence.
But here's the big twist. What if we've been looking at this completely backwards? What if these so-called flaws are not flaws at all? What if they're actually indicators of a highly intelligent mind, just one that's wired a little differently? That's exactly what we're going to dig into.
Okay, first up, let's talk about the classic stereotype, the messy desk. We all know the type. Maybe we even are the type. It's like the #1 symbol for being a disorganized person. But is that really the whole story?
So when someone walks by, they see chaos. They see piles of paper, random books, and they think, wow, what a lazy, scattered mind. But the reality can be something totally different. That mess might actually be the sign of a brain that is so deep into big, important ideas that it just doesn't have the mental energy to spare for organizing paper clips. This isn't laziness, it's all about priorities.
And you know what? There's actually a term for this. It's called selective organization. It's this idea that a really sharp mind will organize its space to help its thought process, not to look pretty for everyone else. Think about those pictures of Einstein's desk. Total chaos, right? But to him, that wasn't chaos. It was a physical map of his thoughts. To the person in the middle of it, it makes perfect sense.
So the real organization isn't on the outside, in neat little files. It's on the inside, in the connections and ideas firing off in the brain. The desk is just, a temporary casualty of a mind that's busy working on something much, much bigger.
Now, this whole idea of a rich, organized internal world, well, it doesn't just stop at our desks. It applies to how we act around other people, too. So, let's switch gears and talk about the power of being quiet. The people who are always observing, listening way more than they speak. And just like the messy desk, there's this huge gap between what people see and what's really going on. The myth is that quiet people are shy or bored or just don't have anything to add. But the reality? Oh, it can be the total opposite. They aren't quiet because their mind is empty. They're quiet because their mind is full. They're busy observing, listening, and processing everything on a way deeper level before they decide to speak.
Psychologists have a name for this too, low social dependency. And it's so important to understand that this is not about being antisocial, not at all. It's about being self-sufficient with your self-worth. People with this trait, they don't need a constant stream of likes or pats on the back to feel good about themselves. Their validation, their confidence, it comes from the inside.
Does any of this sound like you? You actually enjoy your own company. Being alone is how you recharge. You'd rather have a few really deep friendships than 100 shallow ones. And most of all, your self-worth just isn't tied to what other people think. It's this quiet, really powerful kind of confidence. Okay, so we've looked at two huge things that are often seen as flaws. Let's kind of wrap this all up and think about what this really means for how we look at intelligence itself.
So let's just recap this big mental shift. We started with what the world just calls messiness, but now we can see it as a really effective system of selective organization, a brain that's just laser-focused on what matters. And what looks like simple quietness can actually be this incredible strength called low social dependency, a sign of deep thinking and rock-solid inner confidence. And that, right there, is the big takeaway. Real intelligence isn't some one-size-fits-all thing. It's not about having the tidiest desk or being the loudest voice in the room. It's about figuring out how your mind works best and then creating the environment, physical and social, that lets it do its best work. So I'm going to leave you with this question to chew on. Now that we've reframed messiness and quietness, what other so-called flaws in your own life might actually be your secret superpowers? Maybe that tendency you have to daydream is actually where your best ideas come from. It's a really powerful way to look at yourself and the world.